Good evening. Welcome to another episode of One from the Heart live stream. Tonight, the episode 8 of Children of the Setting Sun Productions is entitled Messages from the Frontline. And so we want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in tonight. And we want to say that, the purpose of One from the Heart is a response to the coronavirus, COVID-19, as we encounter a paradigm shift. Many of us are trying to make sense of what this all means. And there's a lot of moving parts that include issues and support and heartache and community compassion, just to name a few. And the live stream is meant to help the community to make sense of what is happening and to maybe uplift hearts and spirits of those who are addressing this epidemic in their own way. Tonight's episode 8, titled Messages from the Frontline. Tonight's theme is Messages from the Frontline. The intention is to hear the voices of those who are doing frontline work in various communities addressing COVID-19. But before we get into it, I want to just say Haishka Siam, thank you. I'm broadcasting from the Lumley Nation up near Bellingham, Washington, and just thanking you for tuning in and listening to the words of our panelists here today. As we always do, we want to open up with a prayer. And so at this time, I'm going to turn the floor over to Shanoa Igawa to open up for us.
Say thank you to you, Michael, and thank you, Daryl, and thank you to each one of the panelists. It's good to see everyone again, and just want to open with a song here, a prayer song. It's Song for the Sacred Elements, thinking about what we're going through on our Mother Earth at this time, and thinking about the earth that gives us life and all of the elements that we depend upon in our daily life, and just offering a prayer for all the homes and all the families, thinking about each and every one of you, and may we have some good work here this evening and uplift and support one another. We Thank you so much, Shanoa, opening up the live stream in a good way, and thank you for offering that song. And we'll be coming back to you. Hopefully during the show, you'll be able to chime in and ask some questions, be a part of the dialogue. And as well, we'll come back to you for a closing song. So
once again, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you, Michael.
At this time, I want to introduce our guest, do a short introduction, and we have guests from a wide range of backgrounds and doing important work in Indian country. The first two guests I'm going to introduce do a tremendous job in serving the urban Native communities, and as many of us know, a majority of our Native people live in urban areas, and so we're very fortunate to have um, some guests that will be addressing what's going on within the Native communities in the urban areas. Um, my apologies, I said that out of order. Actually, the last two guests on the panel will be addressing the urban Native community. But our first guest will be Dr. Cristina Toledo Cornell. And Dr. Toledo Cornell was born and raised in Brazil. She is one of 10 kids. And she moved to the US to go to college and study biological sciences at Wayne State University in Detroit, Michigan. From there, she went to medical school at Cornell Medical School at Cornell University. And she was accepted into the Howard Hyatt Global Health Equity Residency, which is a combined internal medicine and global health of Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston. During her residency, she obtained a master's in public health from the Harvard School of Public Health. And Dr. Toledo stayed on as an adjunct professor at Harvard University and Brigham Women's Hospital for 1 year. And following that, she moved to Lumley, the Lumley Nation, to become a primary care doctor and public health director to work alongside her friend and classmate from medical school, Dr. Dakota Lane. And as many of us know, Dr. Lane who is a Lumley tribal member, is now the executive medical director for the Lumley Health Tribal Health Center. Our next panelist would be Paul Lumley. Paul is the executive director for the Native American Youth and Family Center and is a citizen of the Yakama Nation. He recently came to Naya Family Center after being the executive director of the Columbia River Intertribal Fish Commission. He worked there from 1987 to 2004 under several capacities. He returned to the Tribal Fish Commission after 5 years in Washington, D.C., to begin his tenure as executive director in 2009. Mr. Lumley has an extensive history working with Northwest tribes on salmon issues, particularly in the Columbia River Basin, and the Naya Family Center is based in Portland, Oregon. And then our final panelist will be Colleen Echohawk, who is Pawnee and Athabascan, and she's the executive director of the Chief Seattle Club, a human services provider for urban natives, many of whom are experiencing homelessness, and she's the founder of the Coalition to End Urban Native Homelessness. And recognizing a lack of equity in housing design and development, she's focused on equitable low-income housing and Indigenous-led design solutions. Epcot is a mayoral appointee to the Community Police Commission, a recipient of the King County's 2020 Martin Luther King Medal of Distinguished Service, and was named one of Seattle's most influential people of 2019 by Seattle Magazine. Cool. Her board affiliations include the Seattle Foundation, KUOW National Public Radio Member Station, Downtown Seattle Association, and King County All Home Coordinating Board. And tonight she'll be speaking on points regarding hygiene and sanitation, reducing to the risk to her staff in the environment of COVID-19, and ensuring that the Native voice is heard in every arena, whether that's in the city or during the epidemic, and then figuring out and finding out that culturally appropriate services are the services that work best. And so we're very excited to have Colleen here tonight. So with that, we'll get into our panelists, and we'll start off with Dr. Cristina Toledo Cornell. So thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.
So you can go ahead and start off by just saying a little bit about the work that you do at the Lumley Health Clinic, and just kind of walk us through the experiences that you've done to in preparation of COVID-19, and kind of the responses during this time and currently going on.
Sure. So I've been at Lumley now for almost 2 years. I would say that Lumley Nation has been preparing for their public health for a long time, even before I arrived here. But when I first came, they specifically wanted to strengthen that public health. They want to pursue accreditation. So we had been working really hard in getting our host system as a whole a lot stronger. And as the COVID-19 started to come up in mid to late January here in the US, once people outside of China started realizing that it was going to spread, I felt that we were pretty well positioned to respond. We were dealing a little bit at that time with some hepatitis A issue. And our first Washington state case was confirmed on January 20th. And that same week, we already had several Q&A sessions for hepatitis A, but we made it part of it COVID-19. So I think that the community had a lot of information from the very beginning once this virus arrived in the country. And that same week, we developed protocols to how to respond should somebody show up in our clinic that were concerned. The first week of February, more or less, we started to screen everyone for travel history. At that time was the screening that the CDC was recommending. Have anybody travel outside the country? Has anybody been in contact with somebody who were concerned? And the biggest thing was, had people traveled to China at that point, because we were still not aware of transmission outside of that environment. We soon learned that actually there had been local transmission happen here in Snohomish County all along in King County. But I think once we were moving to that direction, we already had a lot of things in preparation. The most important thing that I think we did as a group, one, is establish a line of communication very early on. And being small, it sort of helps because we are one cell phone call away to reach a council member or the chief of staff, people that really can make decisions very quickly and help us organize our response. So we started meeting daily with the council, and as we prepared our clinic, initially we're thinking about the preparation at the clinic and then move on to community preparation, which is a lot of education for the community and designing plans for the whole community. Once more cases start showing up, the first thing that we said, well, if we do have cases here, how are we going to help people prepare for situations where the way that many Lumley families are organized is that they have multi-generational families, right? So as we're learning about this virus, we're very concerned about the elders, and our families, some households have kids, adults, and much older adults. So how can we prepare those families? So all of that went into our planning, and we developed many different strategies. One is separating. The council gave us very early on several different spaces where we could people on for quarantining themselves, should they be in contact with the virus, or should they worried and didn't want to contaminate their families, or have people in their families who, if they were to get the disease, would be very severe for them. So we had several different sites already established, already set up, and soon we got people to manage those sites, and then doing a lot of surveillance. The other thing that we did very early on was ordering all the test kits that we could get our hands into, and we put orders for personal protective equipment everywhere, including for the IHS, the DOH, and our private vendors. So we're able to get that once the the stuff became available, we got very early on, and we had some at hand that our nurses had ordered just uh, routinely. So that really helped us those first few weeks where everybody was still sort of stunned how to get all this stuff out to the different communities.
Quarantining themselves? Should they be in contact with the
And then the next step was really transition the way we do business. And that was to switch almost all our visits to some sort of outside or through telemedicine. So we're able to start telemedicine very, very early on. We're doing fully telemedicine the week after the Billy Frank holiday. So starting on that week, we're already able to do a lot of telemedicine. And then seeing patients that had any respiratory illness at all outside in tents, instead of bringing them into the building and risking exposing our staff and other patients to the condition. And the moment that the University of Washington started to roll out their tests, that same week we started sending tests to them, because initially we were trying to do testing to the DOH and it was very cumbersome, and the person had to have traveled to China, which almost none of our people would have qualified for a test. So all of those things in place, I think, really helped us respond quickly and very decisively, including quarantining people, helping people with daily phone calls. My team and I got very, very intimate with all the 20 people who has tested positive. We know their families, we know how they feel, we know their anxious, their anxieties. They could call me any time of the day and night. So I felt it was a very personal response as well to those families that were affected, that really made people trust us and call us if they're concerned.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And, that is amazing to share or hear the story of the kind of the inside story. And I think, one of the challenges that we have is just knowing what's going on and how, do we respond, or, frustration of like things aren't happening fast enough, or, so it's really great that you're sharing some of what the process has been. And it sounds like, well, we know that last week we had one of the reporter from the Seattle Times who reported on the work that the Lumley Nation has been doing in response, which in a lot of ways, just as you described, preceded the national and the federal response. So thank you for sharing that. Once again, everybody, you're tuned into the Children of the Setting Suns, One from the Heart, and tonight we're hearing messages from the front line. And at this time, I want to bring back Paul Lumley, who is the Executive Director for the Native American Youth and Family Center, which is based in Portland, Oregon. And he's a citizen of the Yakama Nation. Thank you so much for being here this evening. And Paul, if you could share a little bit of what you're doing down in Portland, Oregon, in serving the urban Native populations down there. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for the invitation to be on tonight. I really appreciate the opportunity to share information. I work for the Native American Youth and Family Center, and we're an organization that serves the community. We were formed about 45 years ago. Right now we have a Native American high school called Many Nations Academy, and we have a broad range of services to help these kids overcome obstacles to graduate. Most of these kids are Native American, most of them are homeless. About 45% are homeless right now. It's an alternative high school, so these are kids that aren't surviving well in the public school system. So we save kids. And the work that we do, not just with the high school, actually we do now with the whole community. We deal with drug and alcohol addiction, gang prevention intervention, foster kids who are going into or coming out of the foster care system so they can stay in school and not become homeless, and domestic violence, broad range of services even outside of high school, from the little ones, actually prenatal, all the way to elders. We have a pretty strong elder program as well. We own and manage 6 affordable housing projects, and we have 2 more on the way. Our latest one is a partnership with the Siletz Tribe and the Native American Rehabilitation Association. We call it a recovery house. It's for people who are looking for a lifestyle without drugs and alcohol. Very close to NAIA too. And we have a community development program dealing with Native businesses, also assisting the community with emergency energy and rental assistance, and a leadership development program as well to build a new cohort of leaders coming up. We're on a 10.5-acre campus on Columbia Boulevard, which is sort of near the airport. And it's an old middle school that we converted over to NAIA about 11 years ago. On a normal day, on average, we would have about 800 people accessing NAIA, either physically in our building or in one of our properties. So it's a very active space. We have a commercial kitchen, which is sort of the heart of NAIA. We feed the high school kids breakfast and lunch, as well as the elders in their program. A lot of evening events. And when this virus hit, we had to change everything very, very quickly. We have a little over 100 employees, and we needed to convert everybody over to offsite workforce. And then we also changed the kitchen model because we could no longer serve in our building. So now we are preparing food on site and delivering it to the community. Last week, we prepared and delivered 1,200 meals in the community with a priority on the elders and families in greatest need. After the first week, we found that the need was about twice as much as we can currently fund or have food sources for. So the needs for food in our community are really huge right now, really huge. We also have a food pantry with staples that families can come and pick up food. We maxed out last week at 130 families. We just ran out of food. So it's pretty tough right now. And in one of our affordable housing projects, Generations, we had a 20% rate of people who couldn't pay their rent anymore because they were affected by the virus. They lost their jobs. So we're very worried about how we're going to pay those rents and support the mortgages on all of our properties as well. It's a challenge. It's a real challenge. I'm not gonna sugarcoat this. Pretty hard work that people are doing. A lot of change that came quickly. Many of our staff that worked in the public school system suddenly found that they couldn't do that anymore. Although they could still reach out to the kids they were serving, they have a lot more time on their hands. So we transferred that part of the workforce over to the kitchen function for preparing, delivering the meals. And so we took a chance on that. It's pretty expensive to do what we're doing, but taking a chance and just hoping that money will come along and it'll get paid for one way or the other. And I have full confidence that it will. Right now we don't actually have it, but I know it will come along. We have to serve the community whether or not we like it. Even if there's a virus out there, we still have to serve the community that needs us now more than ever. I am so proud of my staff that they stepped up to the challenge in such a short period of time. And we had our first all staff meeting last week by Zoom. It was something I did not expect, but people really kind of got into it. I thought it was neat to see everybody again because I really miss everybody. I'm here in my home office, which is okay, but I'm all alone most of the day, and I miss everybody. And I miss being out like all of you, seeing people and seeing friends and family, and it's kind of lonely. When we first started doing this, we didn't know how long it was going to last. I thought we would be opening up today, and we didn't. Obviously, we're not going to for a long time. And I heard from you, Michael, when you were opening this up, this is like the new normal, and it really is. It's going to be like this, I think, for a long time. Some things might lighten up, but it's going to be around with us probably till summer of next year. And so we've got to figure out a way to survive. We as Native people, we are good at that. We are survivors. We have shown that time and time again, and we will survive this as well. But we've got to stick together, got to help each other. We have to have care and empathy with every step, and we'll survive this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paul. And, I really appreciate what you said about, addressing the community needs. I can't remember the exact quote you said. It's something like, serving the community, whether we like it or not. And I took that to mean that whether you like the circumstance or not, like this pandemic, and you still have to just get out there and serve the community. And that really was, heartfelt to hear you say that, because um, based on what you were describing of the youth that you're serving already, they're already addressing a lot of trauma as it is, and then this is just yet another thing that is a barrier or a problem to try to solve. And so really appreciate you sharing that, and thank you for that good work that the community is doing down there. For our next panelist, I'm going to bring forward Colleen Echohawk, as I introduced, is Pawnee and Athabascan, and she's the executive director of the Chief Seattle Club. And the Chief Seattle Club, if you're not familiar with it, based in Seattle, Washington, and is the human services provider for urban natives. So our second guest that's addressing the needs of natives who aren't living on the res or in their home communities of the reservation or traditional territories. And so I think those are, to the urban native community, when you think about things like sovereignty and, land and resources, and even the small support we get from the federal government, these folks that are in the urban environments don't even get to enjoy those supports as well. So really applaud the work of Paul and Colleen in working with these communities. And so at this time, I'll turn the floor over to Colleen.
Oh, thank you so much, Michael. I am so glad to be here with you all. And I have to say that some of my heroes in the work are on this call. So Paul, I'm grateful for you and the work that you do. I just look up to you so much and admire so much what Naya has been doing. And hopefully we're right behind you in Seattle to really create home and security for folks who've been experiencing homelessness. I could go on, Michael, I just think you're the greatest. I love seeing pictures of your grandkids, and and Shanoa, it's like amazing. I've seen you on TV for years, so I could go on, but I just wanted to lift up the good work here and really thank Daryl Hilaire for setting up this great time for all of us to come together. And to all my friends and relatives out there in Turtle Island, I just want to say a big warm hello to you, and thank you for all the work that you're doing out there. I know there's tremendous amount of work. And what I want to start off with is just saying that I think this is a time for Indigenous leadership to shine. What Paul has just said is so important. We have survived a tremendous amount as Native people. And I think that not only have we had a lot of experience with trauma, we also have a lot of experience with resilience and strength in our communities. And so I think that we know how to deal with this crisis in a little bit different way, and a way that I hope that the larger community can see. And I think I'll share with you a little bit about what happened at the Chief Seattle Club about 3 weeks ago. I went into our day center. We are on a reduced schedule, but we are open every single day to support Native people who are experiencing homelessness in Seattle. And I just want to remind you that Native people, unfortunately, we have some of the highest rates of homelessness in the country. In Seattle, if you are Native, you are 10 times more likely to be homeless. And so we make up about 10% of the homeless population. And it's our honor to serve them at the Chief Seattle Club. And I was there about 3 weeks ago now, and I happened to see a grandma that I know pretty well, and I know her family, and I know that they had been living in a tent for a long time, her and her son and her 4-year-old granddaughter. So I was concerned, and I went and talked to her a little bit, and I just felt so worried for them, because they were staying overnight in a congregate shelter. So meaning they were sleeping every night on the floor, on mats, in a room full of many other people. And this was at the very beginning. Well, we're kind of in the middle of what we knew COVID was going to mean for our community. And I just felt so overwhelmed by this thought of having this poor grandma who has lung disease to have to sleep on the floor. And it was so overwhelming. And I just want to like lift that up, that this is a time where it does feel so stressful, and there can be a lot of anxiety. And I felt it in that moment. And I went and talked to our housing director, and we started thinking about what we could do. And I'm happy to say that we were able to get that grandma and her family into a hotel room that night. And so that's one of the way we've been responding, is that we don't have enough housing in Seattle. Every night in Seattle, between 5,000 and 6,000 people are going to sleep outside on the streets. We don't have enough shelters, and we don't have enough low-income housing. So we started moving people into hotel rooms. We've moved about 25 people into hotel rooms. We are prioritizing those folks who have vulnerability. So our elders and those folks who are medically fragile, moved them in as soon as we could. And that's part of our mission at the Chief Seattle Club, is to find secure places to shelter our community and to show them how much we love them and how much we're looking out for their good, because they are incredibly good, amazing people. And we want to find ways for them to prosper and to live a really good life. So at the Chief Seattle Club, we're continuing our day-to-day operations, right? We don't really have an option. Like Paul was saying, we have the amazing team and staff at Chief Seattle Club who are coming to work every day and who are taking, it's a bit risky. I will be the first to admit that when I go down, I'm working at the day center one day a week in solidarity with my team. And I go down there and it feels very weird, because the whole world is saying, stay at home, self-isolate, don't go out there. But there are people who are essential workers who need to go and need to provide bathrooms and showers and laundry to our community. And so we're going down there, and it feels strange, but it feels really right too. And so our staff at the Chief Seattle Club continues just to blow me away with their ingenuity and their love for the community. I had a call earlier today with one of our folks who focuses on the manager and leader of our art program. And she said, hey, I just had a conversation with our team. And so what we're going to do, we decided we're going to create little art survival kits. Our art program is a really big part of our mental health work at Chief Seattle Club. It helps people, feel it's a therapeutic program. And so they're creating all kinds of little kits, beading kits, dream catcher kits, coloring kits to offer our folks so that they can go outside into their encampments or to wherever they're staying, if it's a hotel room, and create medicine in a good way that will help support their mental health. So I am in love with the work. I'm so grateful I get to do this. We are continuing some of our other projects, which include our all building, which is 80 units of housing right in the heart of downtown Seattle on Pioneer Square. That's low-income housing that's funded with public dollars. So that is still on target to open in September of 2021. I invite you all to check us out on social media. We're all the social media streams, and we appreciate your prayers and your support as we go through this time of supporting our folks who are experiencing homelessness. They're very loved, beautiful relatives. So I'm glad to get to be with you all tonight and share a little bit of their stories.
Great. Thank you so much, Colleen. What wonderful work you're doing down there in Seattle and Chief Seattle Club. And I, know from my own personal family members that have utilized the services there, how important that those services are. And just thank you for sharing a little bit of that tonight. And I want to go over to, I see I see that Shanoa is still on, and I also see my good friend Candace Wilson is on as well. And just want to check in with both of you if you have any questions that you're just dying to ask. There are live audience here on the live stream. They're kind of like my Ed McMahon. Anybody remember Johnny Carson? That's old school. So I'm going to introduce my two Ed McMahons. If you want to share anything or ask any questions, you got to unmute.
Chenoa, please. I'll wait for you. Thank you.
First, I just want to say thank you to each one of you, Christine and Paul and Colleen, for the work that you're doing, and for really being there on the front lines and taking care and really making those decisions and being of support to family and friends, relatives, and helping people to be able to move through this time in the best way possible. I've just been thinking about that a lot too, and being here at home and not going out that much and feeling like, you know, there's got to be a way to be able to be of more help and to kind of come together with the community here with all our people working together and looking at how we can continue to work together, because I feel like it's really the grassroots, you know, and from our communities, from our home places, from the organizations that we work at, that we really need to strengthen all those relationships and be prepared for these types of things that have been coming our way, and also thinking about having that courage and that bravery and not letting the fear overtake us, and having the intelligence of taking good care and taking precautions, but also you know, being able to see what can be done and to have faith in our lives and to have faith in our paths and what we're here to do in this life, and to acknowledge the sacredness of this life. And so I've been thinking a lot about just you know, we had the opportunity to be on one of these programs here last week, and it was just looking at how this whole occurrence of the coronavirus has brought everyone to a standstill in their life, and being at home or being out there like you guys are on the front lines, you know, and seeing what is happening there, but really taking another look at our lives and taking another look at what's important, and how we can be in more harmony with our lives, you know, and have more respect and care for one another, the way that the guests on the show tonight are really doing, you know, and really standing up and taking care, and that kind of heart needs to be in all places, and just thinking about the leadership that needs to come from within our communities, and how we all have certain qualities and gifts that need to come through, and that we can all stand up and support one another. And so I just want to say thank you to you guys, and thank you for your passion, for doing your passion, the work that you believe in, because it's that work from the heart when it comes from that passion that you carry for what you're doing. And so I just want to say Haishka to all of you, and thank you, Michael. It's really good to see you too, and thank you for being here and hosting the gathering here for us tonight, and for Daryl too, for bringing us all together and having the opportunity to hear from one another, and to have the closeness of community through this time when we're all sort of being isolated from one another. So I just want to say that much for now, and I'll pass it on to you, Candace. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Haishka, Siam Nesjalacha Siam. Thank you, Michael, for hosting this evening from One from the Heart for Children of the Setting Sun Productions. And thank each and every one of you, our guests this evening. Dr. Toledo, I so appreciate your leadership in the Lumley tribal community and the team that you work with, and how you have proactively moved to take care of the nation before the nation was taking care of the people. And with that, I mean the federal government. And the steps that we have taken, it's so instrumental in the work, not only what Lumley Nation is doing, but Washington State, and then the federal government followed not too long after that. And the work that you guys continue to do each and every day in the front lines. Paul and Colleen, thank you so much for sharing the lens of what it looks like for our urban Indians. They really find a place that is a home away from home of our people. And we are so thankful and appreciative that we have people like you taking care of our people. And sometimes it must not be easy, but uh, we so need you where you are at and what you are doing. And the only question that I have for you is how can we help? And where do we help? If we wanted to donate to your organization or a partner, where would we do that? And Dr. Toledo, before you guys answer that, the Lummi Nation under the Lactamish Foundation does have the Resilience Fund. So if anybody is out there that wants to donate to the good work that Lummi Nation is doing, we have an account set up through our fiscally sponsored accounts, the Resilience Fund. But please share with us, Paul and Colleen, where we can contribute to the good cause. Haishka.
Thank you. It's really good to see you again, Candy. Well, NAYA needs help for the babies right now. Families, they need diapers and baby wipes and formula and childcare medications. We were already providing that service to the families in need, but when this virus hit and everybody became so unemployed so quickly, there's so many families out there that are really struggling. So we had a diaper drive last week, 2 weekends ago, actually. And we raised about $10,000, but that is just a portion of what we really need. And it's hard to find diapers too, so people actually want to drive to NAYA and drop off diapers, we will take them. And anything you can offer for baby care would be greatly appreciated at this time. We can't accept food donations because we have a commercial kitchen. It has to come through a commercial source, but we could use funding for that. We're going to have our fundraiser on April 22nd for the high school kids. It was the Many Nations Academy High School. And unfortunately, we had to cancel that. And so there's some lost revenue there of around $75,000 or $80,000. So keeping the school afloat is required for us to raise money in that manner. And so that does not bode well for our budget in that area. You know, as hard and as frustrating as this is, you know, I'm really blessed that I still have a job. There's some people out there that are unemployed right now, and they need our help. And they need our help in ways that we can't even dictate to them. So just basic gift cards that we could mail to the families in need. The Great Spirit Church, a Native American church sort of near NAYA in Portland, they donated 90 cards with $50 on each card. And the community was so grateful for that. It was a beautiful gift. We distributed them immediately. We could do more of that. A lot of the folks that accepted these gift cards said they were going to pay their bills with them. They're going to buy food. They're going to be able to go shopping. There's also some of the single women who have kids. It's really hard for them to go to the grocery store, and they have to stay home and social distance. So purchasing online is really important, and you can't do that without a gift card. So just funding for gift cards for the community would be also very appreciated.
So if we sent money, where would we send that?
You send it to NAYA. There's on our website, there's a donate button, or I can connect you up with our development director.
Perfect. Thank you.
And,
Thank you. Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome, and thank you. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Mhm.
Colleen, thank you for being here. Hashka. And where would we be able to make a contribution for your organization? And thank you again for the good work, both of you.
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy to get to do it. You can definitely go to our website at tseattleclub.org. We also have links on our social media sites, so Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. you can donate there. I think the thing that we are spending our money on right now is hotel rooms. So we're spending about $60,000 a month to keep folks in a hotel room, keep them away from a congregate shelter setting where they're at risk for the virus. So we also are spending a lot of money on cleaning supplies. We do have a Chief Seattle Club member who tested positive for COVID-19. So we're constantly cleaning. We're also, really grateful for our partners at the Seattle Health Board who helped us out with the COVID-19 testing site right in front of our building. They also have helped us out with personal protection equipment, so PPE, for that frontline staff who are in, dealing with folks who are potentially positive for the virus. One thing that we are looking for donations from, and it really has to just come from the community. We have gotten a lot of them so far, but we need a lot more, are masks that we can hand out to Chief Seattle Club members for people who are out there experiencing homelessness. They need them just as much as we do. And so we have the N95 masks for our staff, but for those folks who are out there, they also need that. So we're asking for the cloth masks. We have lots of people making them and sending them. They're not something you can really buy right now. So if you have extra material, and we just want to try to give every kind of protection that we can. And then we also are accepting gift cards as well, just like Paul. We have some folks who have some pretty significant sanitary needs, and since we're not open fully like we used to be, we can't get things like tampons and soap and toothpaste and those kind of things are not as readily available. So really appreciate the question, and my answer is to follow us on all those social medias and then tseattleclub.org.
Okay, great. So wellness masks. So the ones that the cloth ones have some protective, washable, reusable for community members. We just donated a collection over to the public health with Dr. Toledo. We had some community members that helped put them together, and we just gifted them to the clinic. So we would like to contribute to projects like that, and then for the young infants, the diapers and stuff. So I look forward to helping where I can, because I too am blessed to be able to continue to work through this event. But the work is there. The work is real. Our reality in community and society today is that we're the highest risk, and with the other highest disparities, such as housing and not just healthcare, but a lot of sectors in our livelihood. And then thank you both. And then Chino, I just wanted to shout out and say hello to you. It's good to see you, my friend. And as always, I love seeing you and hearing you on air. You do such a great job. You're an inspiration, and if I ever decide to grow up, I would want to be a Chinoa Igawa. So, and thank you again, Michael, for hosting this evening.
Hey, appreciate it, Candace. Thanks so
Thank
much for your questions. And I did, we have a couple questions that are coming from Facebook Live feed, and I want to go over to Cristina because I know we have a limited time. We have kids that are crawling under the doors. They're trying to get to us right now as we're grandparents and parents. So, but I wanted Cristina to address this question, but everyone, it'd be great to hear. This came from Kerry Jefferson over Facebook, and he asked this. Oh, before I get to the question, I wanted to state that, to the folks that are tuned in, I just pulled up a article real quick in regards to gift cards, and it was a CNBC article that says that $3 billion worth of gift cards go unused each year. And so it's just astounding of how much money is kind of just laying around. So we're really asking, for those of you who are tuned in, to not only yourself, but, tell other folks that these organizations are in a deep need. And if we have these gift cards that are kind of laying around, to please donate them and send them. Also, there was a question about where to mail the masks to the Chief Seattle Club. Is that how we get them to you,
Yeah,
Colleen?
you can get our address at cheesesaddleclub.org, or it's 410 2nd Avenue Extension South, Seattle, Washington 98104. But really, the club website will lead you to that.
chiefseattle.org. Go check it out.
Club.org.
chiefseattleclub.org. Okay, so Cristina, I want to get back to you. This question I want to ask is regarding rejuvenation, and it comes from Kerry Jefferson, and he's asking, how do you, and this is to all of you, but Cristina, if you could go first, how do you get to refill your energy as you give and give, and how do you remember to take some of the medicine for yourself as well? So how do you re-energize yourself?
Thank you for the question, Michael. As a physician, we constantly are sort of surrounded by very happy news and very sad news most of the time. So you sort of have to learn how to live with that. I find very comforting to have a conversation. For example, I saw a patient today over Zoom who I haven't seen in a long time. Is that connection that really makes it special? And you feel really happy, like Paul was mentioning, he hadn't seen some of his staff for a long time. So have that connection with people, I think really sort of spark that joy of continuing to do your work. I have had neighbors who had delivered cookies in my doorsteps. I have gotten gifts from coworkers and a lot of phone calls from patients and emails, just checking on you, doctor, see how you're doing. So I think all of those things go a long ways. I talk to my family who live in Brazil, my mom and dad, particularly my mom, who I'm very close to, and my sisters who live in Europe. I talk to them pretty regularly, just to check in and see how everybody's doing. And I have my kids, and I try to spend a lot of time with them. I have had a little bit of time, and now that things are a little more quiet, work in my garden that also brings me a lot of joy. I grew up on a farm in Brazil and did a lot of farming as a kid, fishing. So my Lumley patients and I have a lot to talk about fishing, although we didn't have any seafood in Brazil. So a lot of that was really helpful, I think, to just sort of allow you to not always take just as the very sort of concerning news, but also see the beauty out there, see the sunset, that kind of thing.
Nice. I'm sorry, I really didn't hear anything past when you said delivering cookies to your doorstep. I just want to advocate, please do that to each one of the panelists here, as well as the host, to anyone that's tuned in. Oh, well, I appreciate your response, and thank you so much for sharing. How about Paul? What do you do to rejuvenate and kind of re-energize and bounce back from, your normal is really challenging, I imagine, but with the in the face of the pandemic as well, how do you re-energize?
Well, I went on a little hike to Mount Tabor, which is a little mountain park in Portland. And last week I was home and on my property here. I didn't leave from Tuesday to Saturday. And I was really getting pretty depressed, I'll be honest with you, about being home alone all the time. And I've got Philip here and everything, but still, it's like I just don't have any interaction in my little office. And I got out, went for this great, glorious walk, and it was beautiful, and there were birds everywhere, and it just made me feel refreshed that life is going on, even though we're dealing with all this stress and pressure, and that really helped me quite a bit. That and I made a pie on Saturday.
Pie is always helpful.
Peach huckleberry pie, and I'll be honest with you,
Nice.
I've got the COVID-15 going here. I'm eating all the time at home.
I've not heard that before. Like the freshman 15 is the COVID 15. I've not heard of that. My goodness. How about you, Colleen?
Yeah, similar to my friends here, I think I've been doing a lot of just trying to be outside. I spent my first couple of Zoom meetings this morning. I was outside in my backyard. I have a really nice, beautiful backyard here in Seattle, and feel very privileged and fortunate to have that. Taking walks with my kids. I'm doing lots of cooking. I don't usually get to do the cooking in my household, so I'm doing a lot of cooking. And then I think the most important thing I'm doing is I'm doing a lot of exercise. Like every morning I'm doing some kind of very strenuous exercise because I'm similar to Paul. Like sometimes the complexity of my day-to-day of running the Tea Saddle Club can be tough, and I can get feeling pretty anxious and stressed about it. So getting a lot of exercise is really helpful in just dealing with that stress and anxiety. So that's been helpful. And then I'm just like, at night I'm eating dark chocolate and watching shows. Don't get me started about Tiger King.
All right. Well, thank you. And I want to go back to you, Colleen, regarding a question I wanted to ask you, which is how are homeless Native women impacted by COVID-19? And that's a topic that we want to center in on. How our Indigenous sisters, epidemic.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I think that one thing we know as a predictor of homelessness for women and Native women is domestic violence. And so I feel a lot of concern for our women who might be in a situation where they feel like they can't get out. And now most of our services are very limited. And so I think it's important to be checking in with our relatives, with our aunties and our sisters and our nieces, to be checking in and make sure everyone is safe, everyone is getting the care that they need. And as we're in a time frame right now where some of our programs and services are not as robust as they usually are, this is the time to really center in, focus in. If you know that person who's been struggling, check on them and make sure that they're safe and that they are that they're doing okay. And then we also just know that there's a lot of sanitation needs for our folks who are experiencing homelessness. If you live outside, it's very hard to wash your hands. All we're hearing is wash your hands, it's the best way, right? And how do you wash your hands when you live outdoors? So it's very important to be thinking about that and finding ways to support our folks and give them access to bathrooms. If you have a relative who's been homeless for a while, this might be the time to say, come home and let us help support you and get you on your feet. So thank you for asking that question, because it's very important to be supporting our women and supporting our folks who've been experiencing homelessness.
Nice. Thank you so much. And Paul, I'll be going to you in a second, but I did want to read a statement from Carrie Jefferson, who offered that question about how to rejuvenate. And he just says, thank you for remembering yourselves. So many people give and don't save for themselves. And prayers to each of you, and hope everyone remembers to think of themselves. So I just wanted to share his message with you. So Paul, Colleen mentioned the concept of domestic violence, and one of the things I had heard in our discussion about COVID-19 and sheltering in, and somewhat related to domestic violence, and since you work with youth, the comment was that many of our youth find a stability in the school system and structure within the school system, and being able to lose all of that and be at home, and also then face some instances of violence, or some of the things that Colleen was talking about. I'm wondering how you and the organization are working with that, or how can these youth be supported?
Well, we definitely have a big loss for the kids, because they did have that structure. They would come to NAIA early. A lot of times they were there waiting when we opened our doors, waiting for breakfast, and also got lunch. And in a lot of cases, that was their primary meals for the day. And got them into a safe place. And so they lost that, and we hope they're okay. We do check in with them every day, our teachers as well as our staff. We treat each of them as our cases, or social work, and so we know what they're going through. We also have in our domestic violence program a pretty high spike in incidences, and For some reason, there's a lot of drug and alcohol use right now. It really increased dramatically, and now people sort of cooped up together in a domestic violence situation is just a pretty bad situation for several of our clients. And so just getting those gift cards to them quickly so they can escape and get to a hotel situation has been very helpful. There's also quite a bit of issues with suicide. People don't want to talk about that in Indian country because it is so taboo, but it is out there and it is real. And people are alone. Many people have lost their jobs. It is really a difficult situation for anybody that's um, thinking like that. There was also a lot of gun purchases just before this, the shutdown hit, and people saw it coming, and so there's a lot of guns out in the community too. And so we're seeing, more violence. We don't see many cars in the streets, but the violence is still there, and so it is a difficult issue to deal with right now. That is for sure.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. We're a little bit after 7, and I want to check in with Shanoa or Candace if you wanted to share anything, or Cristina also, if you wanted to reply to any of those questions that I just asked of Paul and Colleen.
We have been monitoring very closely I mentioned before, the one big thing that we focused on was having space that were safe, that people could go to. We did had one person who was victim of domestic violence that we're able to remove out of that situation. So I find that we are very fortunate to have those spaces where people can go and find refuge. One thing is that we were worried about was that at some point we understood that some of the jails going to let out some people early. So preparing to receive those individuals back into the community in the safest possible way was a big part of we were planning for. One, to prevent situations like this to come and become part of other people that weren't expecting for that to happen. Luckily, that did end up not happening, but that was a concern that we had, particularly domestic violence, where partners may be coming back and the person is not aware that they are coming back. So Lumley does have a lot of support for victims of domestic violence, so I think that's very fortunate. We have a very strong behavioral health crisis center that can reach out any time of the night to people that are suffering. So that gives us, and a lot of those servers are still strong and going. People can get a Zoom conference with a behavioral health counselor. There's still a lot of services that we can provide to people. So in that sense, I think our community is very, very fortunate.
Last question I wanted to ask you, Cristina, it's, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull it all together, but I was thinking of our relatives down in the Navajo Nation, and I read an article that is placing them at the number 3 hotspot in the country behind New York and New Jersey per capita wise. And I'm just wondering, and I'm kind of mixing it with this question because I've had a number of allies, non-tribal folks who message me and ask how they can support the Lumley Nation and the efforts within tribal communities to address the epidemic. And I'm just wondering, I know it's a similar question that Candace asked, but from a tribal entity, what kind of support, aside from not coming onto the reservation, what kind of support can non-tribal folks, and that's strictly for quarantine measures, but what kind of other things can folks do, allies who are checking in and want to support?
Yeah, a lot of the things that you need to be really effective to help people stay at home are things that Paul and Colleen were mentioning, is that giving people space that's safe and clean and livable, that they can stay at home to prevent transmission. And that's what New Yorkers had to face. A lot of, as you know, a lot of people that are peri-homeless or live in difficult situations. So it's really hard for you to be quarantine at home when you don't have a good place to go. So giving to organizations who support that kind of work really goes a long way. I think that Lumley was very fortunate to have that in place, but not all the reservations do. I wasn't listening to an NPR report this morning. One thing that they mentioned is there are a lot of households that doesn't have running water, and as everybody knows, being very hard to be able to get alcohol sanitizers. So those things, if anybody has it laying around, like donating those to reservations that are hard hit, like the Navajo, who may not have as much access to those things, or people who may not have running water, or who even people with running water, it's not always easy to clean your hands if you're going out and going to a grocery store or going to a place they're more crowded. And then just supporting people and to have a safe place to stay if they don't have that going on yet, and a lot of personal protective equipment for those who are the first responder, EMS, police, the hospitals, clinics, so that they can serve the people that needs that service in those most difficult moments. I think that those are the things that really help us to have a very effective response. And I think that any other tribe that are suffering with their numbers going up, those are things I think is going to help them keep people safe.
Thank you so much. And I'll, Candace, if you could say real quickly, I'm not sure the Lactamus Foundation, if they're taking funds or donations on behalf of the Lummi Nation.
Yes, and Michael, I just wanted to remind everybody about the importance of the census. If we can remind our communities to conduct our intake or our application for the census 2020, it's really critical to all of our communities in getting the formula set and appropriately set to get funding back into our communities. So the census 2020, remind each and every one that we come in contact with for the census. But the Lactamus Foundation, we do receive funds through the Resilience Fund, and we do have a fund set up for at lactamus.org, and it is the Resilience Fund, so it's an online payment. So thank you all once again, Haishka, and thank you, Michael.
Yeah, thank you, Candace. It's funny when Shanoa called you Candy. I know we've been trying to break that habit. Yeah. So on behalf of the children of the Setting Sun Productions and the One from the Heart production team, we just want to say thank you to each and every one of you for the good work you're doing in the community, and just appreciate you spending a little bit of time. I know you got busy lives as it is, and children and your work, and so thanks for taking the time to do this and try to uplift the community. And at this time, I want to turn it back over to Shanoa Igawa to close this out for the evening. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you to each one of you again for all the amazing work you're doing, and just thinking about the prayers of strength and support. And I'll be thinking about each one of you in my prayers, and the work that you're doing, and keeping our families in mind, and the people who are looking for those places to be safe and taken care of, and that the resources can come in to make sure that people are supported. So just thinking about that, and offering this prayer song, and saying, as a way of saying thank you, and as a way of bringing strength to all of us at this time, and keeping our faith strong, and keeping our hopes up, and being out in nature, like a lot of you are saying, to rejuvenate yourself. And the beauty of the springtime is here, and the nature will help us, so just sing this song here. This is a song that my husband and I composed, and he's from the Navajo Nation, and it's in the Dene language. And so just thinking about what you were saying, Michael, sending prayers to the Navajo Nation, and to all our people, and that, we're going to come through this stronger and wiser, and that with a lot of hope. Aishka, to each one of you, thank you.
Thank you so much, Shanoa, and also to each of our panelists and Candace as well. Thank you for being here this evening. And that brings us to the end of our show. Once again, we want to remind folks that the children of the Setting Suns Productions, One from the Heart, is broadcasting every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 6 p.m. So please let your friends know and tune in. So thank you. Good night, everyone. Hoi, hoi kucha.
Hoi.